giving people all this shit. And, Brock going to the UFC brings attention to the UFC. It brought it to the UFC then. He was a huge draw when he first came there. He main evented the 100th event that the UFC held. He also was a co-main event at UFC 200, if memory serves me right. He is a name that people will buy the pay-per-view and buy tickets to go watch, and and the like. Whether people like it or not, he is a draw. When he comes to WWE, what happens when his music hits? Everybody pops. Everybody cheers. You can't deny it. You can't deny the fact that Brock Lesnar's presence in the UFC, even just for this little bit at UFC 226, that hasn't helped. That it hasn't helped already. It has. Look at all the social media presence on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. You could look anywhere and you type in Brock Lesnar and how much coverage from pro wrestling sites, from mixed martial arts sites, from pop culture sites. That's the key. You have the hardcore fan of mixed martial arts that doesn't want Brock Lesnar here because they know what he's there for. Oh, and not to mention those who are saying Brock's taking the spot of somebody who deserves it. For anybody who cares, who is a mixed martial arts fan, guess what he's doing to WWE right now? He's doing the same thing, but also take a look. He is a major draw. Nobody can be mad at that if you are a pro wrestling fan, if you are a mixed martial arts fan. His name brings in attention, and that's undeniable. Undeniable. And if you're a fan of mixed martial arts, you should be thanking Brock Lesnar for coming back to bring the attention to the UFC. Now, I get it. He got busted for the doping and all of that. That's where I get, oh, well, he did this, he did that. If John Jones came back clean and he fought and then the tests came back that he was clean, wouldn't you not be happy that John Jones came back because he was John Jones? He's one of your guys, meaning a mixed martial arts guy through and through. He hasn't jumped ship to wrestling yet. And look at it this way. I'm just going to pull this up as an example. There are a lot of people from mixed martial arts. Well, let me get to this point first. There's a lot of people in mixed martial arts, like a Matt Riddle, like a Ronda Rousey, like a Shayna Baszler. Josh Barnett's a New Japan commentator right now. They're all in wrestling right now, one way or another. Why? Well, it's a new opportunity for them, and they know that's where the attention is. If they want to become a star in whatever they do, they can do pro wrestling. And they're, look at all of them. Just the four names that I had mentioned. Look at the success that they've achieved. I mean, Ronda Rousey's already had a women's championship match in WWE. She was a pop culture phenomenon because of the way she would be fighting and the dominance of her performances. She became a household name. And she decided to, not to quote LeBron James, she decided to take her talents to the WWE. Let's face it, she's never going to be in the mixed martial arts world ever again, especially after those two losses. Women's MMA caught up to her. It's like a Tito Ortiz. Mixed martial arts eventually caught up to him. He was ground and pound, finishing guys off real fast. That sounded wrong, I get it. But he wins his fights really quick. And, eventually when UFC started going towards the way of not just ground and pound attacks and not just one discipline of martial arts that's being observed by, per fighter, that's when it caught up to him. as the mixed martial arts world has caught up to Ronda. And she was a passionate wrestling fan, and now she's in the world of the WWE, and right now she's succeeding. Matt Riddle, not necessarily a name that's like, oh, well, he's not in WWE. No, he's not, but he's one of the biggest stars on, I hate to say independent circuit because, but he's a big star in the world of independent professional wrestling. Shayna Baszler, NXT Women's Champion, and the other two members of the Four Horsewomen are right now training in developmental in Orlando, Florida for the WWE. Josh Barnett, New Japan broadcaster. And I'm sure, and you know what? The very first example of MMA crossing over into pro wrestling, Ken Shamrock. And that's the first big name that I can think of. Everybody can say Sakuraba and all that other stuff. I get that too. But from a casual fan's perspective in North America, yeah, you're looking at Ken Shamrock, one of the biggest names in the UFC, and again, a combat sports thing. His name brought in attention to the WWE once he signed the contract to be a wrestler, and he was really good. Obviously, things didn't work out, and he left when he did, and everything else. Let's also face it. Ken Shamrock at that time probably didn't want to fight anymore. Everybody has their reasons. No matter the reason in which Brock's coming in, you should be grateful that he's there if you're an MMA fan. If you're a wrestling fan, I understand why you're upset. But nobody has the right. I mean, everybody has a right to their opinion, but too many people are just yapping their gums because it's behind the safety of their keyboard and whatnot. Let Brock do his thing. Who cares? And everyone's like, oh, well, he's got to be. I saw a few posts. He's got to be re-entered into the drug program to see if he's even allowed to fight. And he has to serve an X amount of time in suspension and all that. I get you're trying to justify why it's a bad move for him to be there, but if you're a fan of mixed martial arts, just shut up and let him come in and let him bring in attention. And just I know he's doing it for egotistical reasons, like, hey, I'm going to get paid, this is great. But in the long run, if you're a fan, he's bringing attention to your product, and you should be very thankful. Let's see. Now, let's get to, really quick, the promo, and I'm going to call it a promo, in which Daniel Cormier cut on Brock Lesnar to come into the cage after he had won his fight. Brock comes in and shoves him, and it causes a big mess. Guys, let's just face facts. When you have somebody who's trying to be charismatic like that and do what he did, yeah, it's going to bring in attention. Again, the attention thing. You're calling out Brock Lesnar the baddest mofo on the planet. I don't care how old he is. So, I'm actually watching it right now as I'm talking here. Now we're at the point where Cormier calls him out. Brock Lesnar looking all sharp in his three-piece suit, coming into the ring. Call me out. Shoves him. One of the people from Cormier's camp actually shoves Brock. He's half his size, and he's shoving Brock Lesnar. And Dana White just shoves that same guy out of the way. Here's Joe Rogan laughing his ass off. All the security from the casinos in with their red blazers and everything getting in the way. Here's Brock laughing at Cormier, who's pretty much half his size anyway, too. And they're talking smack back and forth. Here's Dana White with a nice big shit-eating grin on his face, too. Because he knows that this segment alone is bringing a lot of attention to the company in which he owned at one point. And then here comes the point where Brock Lesnar shits on the heavyweight fight that was on before and pretty much the whole division, and then curses out Cormier and throws the mic into the camera. Okay, so after this, on like my personal Facebook, I put out a huge rant. You know, the course of what's popular in, I guess, the world of combat sports is changing. Now, let's face it, in the world of combat sports, boxing's been dead for a long time. UFC right now is starting to suffer that same fate, where the casual fan just don't care. They're only going to care when a bigger fight comes around. When's the next big pay-per-view buy rate? This fight right here, if it truly takes place in November in New York at Madison Square Garden, Brock Lesnar, Daniel Cormier for the UFC Heavyweight Championship. Do other people deserve that spot? You know what? I'm sure they do. But what's going to be the biggest draw right now, immediately, for this event? Brock Lesnar. So, but guys, they both cut a wrestling style promo, because now what comes out of their mouths is going to be what is, you know, it's what's going to be talked about. So, you know, let's look at it. Let's look at it here really quick, okay? I can say this over and over again until the cows come home. It's all about attention. It's all about getting the casual fan to watch the product. And at this moment, UFC needs all the help it gets. They're not being renewed by Fox. They have a deal with ESPN coming up. Fox just signed to have exclusive rights to air SmackDown for $2 billion. $2 billion on a 5-year deal to air WWE content. You know that they know that WWE is going to deliver. They have plenty of names on their product. You know, what's the next shakeup going to be? Ronda Rousey to SmackDown. She has a name. AJ Styles to SmackDown still. He has a name. Braun Strowman's building up a name. Roman Reigns. You know, you're going to have people by that point, by next year when they start in October of 2019, when they start airing the product on Fox, that they're going to have names that they've already been developing. Whereas when UFC started on Fox, okay, that's great. You're buying into that product because of the UFC and how popular it's been. Now it's not the same. And now, while UFC's popularity is declining, WWE's is rising. They are always in the public eye on mainstream websites about what they're doing here and there, what did this person do. And look at pro wrestling in general. Pro wrestling in general is on the upswing. Like, let's just take an example. The guy who is a Michael Jackson impersonator. Okay, this video has been making its way through the internet. An impersonator comes in, does a moonwalk into a DDT. That's getting millions of views all over the internet right now. Guess what? That's pro wrestling. That's entertainment. People want to be entertained. And as a friend of mine, Nate Mustang, had said on my personal Facebook when I made comments about this idea of it being a blood sport, and it's not working anymore for them. That part of it has long gone away. Now you need stars. People want to be entertained, not watch a boring shit show of trying to one-up one another with jiu-jitsu and this, that. People want to... Boxing, look at that. When Mike Tyson was at the top of his game in boxing, he was knocking people's heads off. People want to see that kind of blood, guts, and gore. And UFC was doing that for a long time when they first started really getting into the public eye because it's like, oh my God, can you believe